Hi everyone, Leticia here. Happy Saturday. It's going wonderful so far. I am back again today with another edition of my free show. And as announced yesterday, the topic of today's webinar will be about renting in Mexico. I know some my most recent videos were all about, the types of properties we have available for sale here, at least here in Playa del Carmen, in the Riviera Maya. But a lot of people, when they come to Mexico, they first want to rent term or longer term basis. So that is the topic of today's presentation. And before ado, I will share with you a few slides that I put together for you. Okay. Thanks for tuning in if you're watching this live, and also for those of you who may be watching this after the fact. Okay. So I do have some pictures of some rentals that are currently available. So how do we go about finding a rental in Mexico? And some of what I share will apply to most of Mexico. Some will be maybe specific to Playa del Carmen, Quintana Roo, where we have more of a vacational rental market. So obviously, if you're looking for a short-term rental anywhere from a few days to a week, 2 weeks, these sites, I'm sure you've heard of all these sites. You don't need my help with this, okay? Now, and that's, by the way, an apartment that is available currently for rent in Playa del Carmen. Nice, right? Stay tuned for next week when I will share more details with you about some of what we have available in the Playa del Carmen market, okay? In any case, if you have decided you want to come check out Mexico for longer, so you're looking for a rental of at least 1 month, maybe, you know what? I wonder if we can get rid of that slides thing. Okay. Um, you're looking for a rental of at least 1 month, or up to 6 months, maybe a year. Maybe you've decided to relocate here or spend an extended period of time here. How do you go about looking for a rental? Well, one of the ways you could look for a rental is through agent. Okay, now if you don't know anybody, well, if you happen to be coming to Playa, I do help people with both rentals and purchases. Okay, if you're living at a different city where you may not know anybody, usually you're going to find some expats or content creators that talk about life in that city. You could always ask them for a referral to a local agent. The other thing you can do, and where a lot of longer term rentals tend to be advertised, is on Facebook Marketplace and on various Facebook rental groups. So you want to be looking for rentas, I should put that in there, rentas, rentas. That means rentals, and in your desired market, in the city that you're considering moving to or renting in. Okay. Um, Here in Playa del Carmen and Tulum area, a lot of life here runs off of WhatsApp and Telegram groups, and we do have real estate specific WhatsApp and Telegram groups. I actually run one of them. I run the Playa Real Estate WhatsApp and Telegram groups. I will put links to these groups in the description of this video and in the comment section. So if you're coming for a specific period of time, you can join one of those groups and say, "Hey, I'm coming. I'm looking for a rental from this date to this other date," and agents or property administrators will get in touch with you, or you may see properties being advertised on those groups. Especially now that we are in high season, and we can talk about the seasonality in the at least Playa del Carmen and Riviera Maya area. Um, a lot of times agents will have pocket listings, so it's not always that those listings make it to Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace, interestingly enough, happens to be probably the most popular place to advertise rentals, especially like longer term rentals. But a lot of times they don't even make it, because a lot of times agents will have pocket listings, and if they see a request on one of the groups, it just saves them the time of having to create the Facebook Marketplace listing. Okay, and I'm speaking even from my own experience. Um, Here in Playa del Carmen, and I'm sure in other cities in Mexico, we also have brokers groups where if a broker has a listing, they'll just post it on a brokers group, and then oftentimes other agents will have clients looking for those, like, a listing just like that. And it works the same way when it comes to purchases as well. But today we're speaking about rentals. So definitely WhatsApp, Telegram groups, try to find yourself some. if you're completely new to an area and you're not yet tapped into the WhatsApp scene, Facebook is still a good place to look. We have, again, the rentas groups. Um, in some cities, you may find English groups. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that there's an automatic translate feature on Facebook Marketplace. We also have a website that you may have heard about. It's called vivaanuncios.com.mx. That is another place where both properties for sale and for rent get advertised across Mexico. Um, you know, and some I have seen some YouTube creators talk about how you can get like a cheaper, maybe a better deal on there. When I was new to Mexico, I did try that avenue, and I can tell you that out of so many listings that I reached out to, I would estimate that less than 5%, like literally a handful of agents got back to me. So if you're gonna look on that website, I would say call the agents, or send them a message on WhatsApp. They are much more likely to answer than sending them a message on one of these sites. Okay. And that goes for other listing sites like Point to Homes, where, okay, that's mostly for purchases. But your best bet is reaching out to the agent via WhatsApp. You can use a translator. Again, one thing I would like to say here is buyer beware. Okay, we have had cases where, potential tenants in good faith reached out to so-called agent on Facebook Marketplace, and in order to reserve a rental, that's going to be on my next slide, you will be required to put down a security deposit, which also serves as a reservation deposit. Unfortunately, there have been a number of cases where clients in good faith sent deposits to a so-called agent, and the guy, the person, male or female, subsequently blocked them on Facebook, took the money and ran. Okay, so unfortunately, these things do happen, and there's not, the chance of you getting that money back are very low. So your best bet is to work with an agent that has been referred to you, or that have some faith in, you have some level of relationship with. um, and if you don't have such a person, then maybe look at that respective, if you find somebody on Facebook Marketplace, look at their Facebook profile. Does it look like it's real estate related? Do they have friendships with other local realtors? Do they belong to all the rental groups? Do they have historial of listings of apartments, houses for rent, and so on? So do a bit of due diligence before you send your hard-earned money to a stranger. Okay. With that said, let's talk about, again, a little bit about the rental process in Mexico, especially when it comes to longer-term rentals. Okay, as mentioned, you will be expected, if you are interested in a particular apartment and you want to reserve that for yourself, you want to take it off the market so it's not available to other potential tenants, you will be requested to send a security deposit. Now, in the case of a rental of 6 months or plus, which here it's considered, well, it used to be considered medium term, but now it's really considered like long term, anything 6 months or more. um, the security deposit is equal to 1 month of rent. Okay. And depends on how high the rent is. That's what the security deposit will look like. Now, some owners and listing agents will say, well, okay, if you're still out of country, maybe you can send a smaller amount of security deposit. You could always try to negotiate that. They may or may not accept that. Okay. You will usually be provided with a receipt for your security deposit. And then the process is, when you are ready to move in, you will be expected to pay your first month of rent. And at that point in time, the lease agreement gets signed. I know, especially in dealing with some of my Canadian clients that are moving to Mexico or coming here for a few months, um, you know, the clients are asking to see paperwork ahead of time. And as a favor, sometimes the listing agent will prepare the lease agreement and send it to you. It's not typically the case. You will always be provided with a receipt, if you're dealing with a reliable agent, property administrator. But you may or may not see the lease until you move in. I know it's kind of strange, but you can always ask for it. In fact, you've got nothing to lose by asking to see a copy of the lease, at least the wording. Then it may take the agent or you know their representative some time to prepare the lease with all your particulars, but at the very least you can ask to see the wording of the lease. um, Now, this security deposit is not to be used towards the rent. I know in Canada and the US, we're used to doing first and last. That is not what they do here in Mexico. Here is 1 month of rent, 1 month of security deposit. The security deposit is really a security deposit. So if you end up doing any damage in the unit, or running an extra high electricity bill or anything like that, that will be deducted off of your security deposit. Okay. Uh, the security deposit is refundable at the end of your stay. Now, here again, buyer beware, right? We have heard of cases where shady owners, or so-called agents, have not returned the client's security deposit. If you are dealing with an agent that's been referred to you, or with a property that's been referred to you, you're usually going to minimize your chances of that happening. Okay. The property administrators, the properties that I deal with, at least here in Playa Carmen, I've already been dealing with them for a while. I've only had one case where where something like this has happened, and thankfully it was a small amount of deposit. And I'm obviously never dealing with that property again. Goodbye. In general, the properties I deal with, I've already had repeated successful transactions with them, and I know I can count on them to return the security deposit. Now, most lease agreements do allow for some time for the owner to refund the tenant's security deposit. It's not instant. In some cases, listen, if it was an easy transaction, they will do an inspection of the property at the end. Nothing was damaged. They will give you back your deposit in cash. The reason there usually is an allowance of time for the deposit to be returned is that in case something were to get damaged in the unit, um, and the owner now has to find a replacement, it may take them a little bit of time to source that or to figure out how much the repair is going to cost. So that is why there's a bit of a lag. And also, in terms of the last electricity bill, so we're going to discuss about this, but usually with long-term rentals, electricity, at the very least, electricity is not going to be included. Sometimes other utilities are also not going to be included. We'll talk about that shortly. We do have an application that technically is supposed to give us what the final electricity consumption was as of that date, and how much you owe. Sometimes that application crashes, doesn't work. If the owner has to go to the local CFE, which is the electrical utility here, to figure out, how much you owe for the consumption and so on, it may take a day or two. So, which is why it may not be instant. Now, you may wonder, well, I'm already back in Canada. I'm already back in the US. How am I going to get back my security deposit if I've already left? Again, if you're dealing with a good agent, that person can make the arrangements, whether directly with the owner. When you're dealing with a trustworthy owner or agent, they will make sure that security deposit gets returned to you. They're going to show you a copy of the electricity bill. That's what you want to have happen. See a copy of the last electricity bill, or at least be shown your consumption. Particularly when you move into an apartment, there's going to be a picture taken of that unit's electricity meter, which shows what the initial reading was. And then there's going to be a picture taken at the end of your stay, again, to help figure out, what your consumption was in case you were in between billing cycles. Okay. Okay. Now, some owners, my friends, will require a lawyer drafted or notary drafted lease agreement. There is a cost associated with that, and the tenant is expected to bear that cost. So you're looking at about anywhere from, at the very low end, 2,000 pesos, which would be around $100 to, I've seen up to 3,500 pesos, especially if it's like a rush type agreement. They may charge up to 4,000 pesos. This is known as a contract fee. So when you're looking at listing and you see the rental amount, they will say 1 month of rent, 1 month of security deposit, contract fee, 2,500. It is what it is. Some owners will insist on it. Sometimes, if the owner, even if the owner doesn't insist on having a notarized or a lawyer drafted lease agreement, they will ask the listing agent to prepare a lease, and oftentimes the agent will charge a fee for the time required to do that, for the time for the investment. More than anything is the time required to set that up. Okay. What's included in the rent? Yeah, you always want to ask, okay, what is included in the rent? And again, when you're dealing with a proper agent or property administrator, they will review the lease with you. They'll be very clear with you. And like I said, when it comes to longer term rentals, electricity is almost always an extra. Sometimes the internet is included, sometimes it's not. The water and the gas, some buildings don't have gas, but if you do have a gas water heater or a gas stove, now water and gas are usually very small, almost negligible cost. Electricity can be high, and the only times I've seen electricity be included is for short-term Airbnb type rentals. And even there, increasingly owners are choosing cap that because you have tenants that unfortunately abuse. They keep the ACs on 24/7, and then you know your security deposit may or may not cover that electricity consumption. So the owners don't want to be on the hook for that. So you can expect to pay extra for electricity, and it is very much as per your consumption. Now, one important provision of all the leases I've seen here, and I understand it's like that, across Mexico, if you leave before the end of your lease term, you will lose that security deposit, my friends. That is a standard provision of the leases. Typically, if you are signing a 6-month lease or even a 3-month lease, but typically for 6 months and more, you are getting a preferential rate versus what a month-to-month rental would cost, or versus what the Airbnb rate is for that same apartment. So you know there have to be consequences if you decide, well, I changed my mind, I'm going to take off early. um, Obviously, if the issues, maintenance issues and all that, it is the onus is on you to address those with the owner. And again, if you're dealing with reliable properties, listing agents and so on, usually you're also dealing with responsible owners and people that will address any kind of maintenance concerns that come up. Unfortunately, again, I have heard of stories where people just found a random property on Facebook and everything seemed okay, to then be stuck with a very uncaring owner who didn't care about all the maintenance issues and so on. So it is a referral game a lot. Let's talk about, yeah, you may hear in some Mexican states, not so much in Quintana Roo. I've only ever seen it once, where you are asked for a co-signer. And it happened to me. These owners were from Merida, another city in the Yucatan Peninsula, and they were asking for what's known as an obligado solidario. Uh, I don't know how to translate that exactly, but it basically means co-signer, somebody that can in another term used for it is an aval. So somebody that's backing you up in case you're not able to pay the rent. They will go after this person legally. They have a right to go after this person for the rent. Okay, not very common in Quintana Roo. Again, I've only ever come across it once. In some cases and in some states, again, it is also common that you're going to see what's called as a polisa jurídica, judicial policy. This is an additional protection put in place, and you're only going to see this when it's a lawyer drafted lease. This is an additional protection that a law office would provide for the owner, and at the same time, it also protects you. It's a higher level of obligation for both parties, and it's usually, if you're going to come, the only time I've ever seen it here in Quintana Roo was in the case of a luxury rental. We're talking about a 3-bedroom penthouse. The rental amount was higher. So more often than not, we're going to see these types of policies, either for high-end rentals when the owner really is very serious about protecting their investment, which they should be, okay, or in the case of commercial or larger spaces, again. And again, not very common here in Quintana Roo unless we're dealing with higher end or commercial properties. And essentially, it is a legal protection for the owner. If anything were to go wrong, they've got the law office on their side to immediately take action and intervene and be able to start civil procedures if necessary. It does protect both parties in case, but again, not very common, not for regular leases. One thing that I don't think I put in here, yeah, um, I didn't have a chance to put it in here, but sometimes people wonder, well, is there rent control in Mexico? So where I was living before in Ontario, Canada, there certainly was rent control. Uh, Owners of properties could only raise the rent by like the inflation level amount, which was understated to begin with. Um, I cannot speak about other Mexican states, but I can tell you that here in Quintana Roo, we do have a piece of legislation called the Código Civil de Quintana Roo, Civil Code of Quintana Roo, which does specify that owners are only allowed to raise the rent 10% per year, okay, a maximum of 10% per year. Now, one thing you need to know that because we're in a very vacational, tourist-focused market, there are some properties that offer themselves up only for short-term vacational rentals. And in those cases, I have seen lease agreements that say that you as a tenant will waive the rights that you have given by, to for the rent to only be raised this much. In other words, they make it very clear that the contract is not renewable. It's only from this date to this date, and you do not have that protection in place. Okay, and you need to be aware when you're signing that, hey, listen, this is strictly a short-term rental agreement. And the reason for that is because, again, here in this touristic area, we do have the winter months, which are considered our high season, when people from the colder climates tend to flock to this area, and that reflects in the rents. And then we do have, the summer months when there's a softening in the rental market, and you can expect rents to be, a bit lower. So there are some owners who, and again, it depends on the property, depends on the owners, depends on what you're looking for. Maybe you're only here for a few months, and you're totally fine with that. If you're looking for a long-term rental in Playa del Carmen, or in this whole area known as the Riviera Maya, not a bit, your best time to shop would probably be in the summer months, or sometime after, you know April, the middle of April, okay, because that's when we have a bit of a softening in the market. And if you are looking to lock into a 1 year long rental, that's when you have a little more availability in the market. Rents are going to be a little better. Anyway, it wasn't my intention to get into the details of this market, um, but that's the thing about rent control. So if you are in a yearly lease, or even a 6-month lease, yeah, keep in mind the owners are allowed to raise your rent up to 10% per year. That's not even keeping up with the way rental appreciation has been in this area. But again, we can leave that for next week's conversation. So that's all I want to share for now, my friends. I've been speaking for a while already. Thank you for watching. And of course, if you are looking for a rental in this area, I only do rentals in Playa del Carmen. I do help people with purchases, both in Playa del Carmen, Tulum, Puerto Aventuras, Puerto Morelos, some of the satellite cities to Playa del Carmen. When it comes to rentals, only here in Playa del Carmen. Um, Feel free to reach out to me. And well, that's all for now, my friends. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye for now. Thanks for tuning in.